Howdy.
So, all right, we may, Jack, be live already. I'm not totally sure why it did that way, and I cannot promote Patrick to host. Why not?
Do you want me to pause the recording until we start?
Yeah. All right, people are filing in.
Hi, Paige.
Hello.
How's it going?
Going pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
Surviving spring quarter, Paige.
Sorry, you cut out for a second. What?
Oh, sorry. I said, are you surviving spring quarter? The slog that it is.
Yeah, it's been a slog. I'm doing my best, but yeah, it's just slogging along. Yeah.
I know we still have a long way to go, don't we? Let's see here. Well, welcome to those of you that are logging in. We're going to give it just another minute. Let's see if other folks show up. Great. Well, I think we'll go ahead and just open the floor to questions starting now. I'm going to run around and do introductions really quickly. So I'm Stephen Campbell. I'm the Director of Admission for the Lamont School of Music. Jack Sheinbaum is here. He's the Associate Director for Academic Affairs and a Musicology Professor at Lamont. Paige Newman is here. She's a current undergraduate composition major, a first year. Then Patrick Hyatte is here as well, current graduate student in violin. Both Patrick and Paige are, this is their first year at Lamont. So that means that their experience so far has only been the pandemic, the COVID experience. So they can share a lot of insights into what that was like. And Jack and I can hopefully flesh out some of the experiences from more normal times. But I do expect our director, Keith Ward, to be here in a few minutes. He was held up in another meeting, but he'll be here soon. So he'll join us when he's able. Those of you that are here, this is really just an informal session. We're here to answer your questions. I know the undergraduate deadline is coming up. The graduate deadline is actually behind us on April 15th, but we may have some graduate students join us as well, asking those questions. But that decision deadline is coming up, and we know that there may be some more burning questions out there. So there is the Q&A function down at the bottom is how you should ask those questions. And we will probably answer most of them live unless it's very specific to you, in which case we'll just type the answer in the Q&A area. So we're just here and we will talk with each other. We'll ask questions of each other for fun, but we're just here to answer your questions. So throw them in there. It's super informal. And we hope we can be a resource to you. Awesome, Reagan, thank you for your question. And actually, I noticed that two of the students that are here. One is a violist, so Patrick, good string connection, and one was composition. So this is actually kind of perfect with the students that are asking questions right now. So Reagan, it's going to depend somewhat on what the combination of programs you're looking at is. The Bachelor of Arts in Music is definitely the easiest music program, music major to combine with something else. If you're interested in something, anthropology, great. So I have to look it up, but I believe anthropology does offer a Bachelor of Arts version. Jack, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but BA plus BA, that's your traditional liberal arts double major, right, Reagan? So that is actually as simple as it gets in terms of our double major. Now, typically, depending if you have AP credits or if you have concurrent enrollment, things you're transferring in, that will ensure that you can get it done in 4 years. Summer coursework is also an option in some areas, more in anthropology than in music, and also more in the common curriculum than music. So that would be an option to make sure you can get it done in 4 years. But generally what I would say, Reagan, and Jack, jump in if you'd like, we have a wonderful advising system here, both a dedicated music advisor in Rachel Lim and a robust academic advising program. And so you would be working with both an academic advisor for kind of the common curriculum and anthropology side, and Rachel Lim here at Lamont to work with the music side. And they would help you really have a clear idea of what your path to graduation is going to be. And obviously the goal is to graduate in 4 years. So that would be what they are working towards.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I'll add to that the culturally it works really well here. The vast majority of our BA music majors are BAs because they want to major in something else. So they do it because they want to do a double major. And that's one of the things I really love about Lamont is that students choose the major that fits them very well. It's not a question of, is one major for better musicians than another, but the students that are the BAs, they choose the BA because they very often want to be doing a double major or something along those lines. So it's perfect. And you would be in lots of good company with the other BA music majors if you were doing a double major.
And Reagan, there's one other thing that Jack is kind of mentioning too, but there are no artificial boundaries to Bachelor of Arts in Music students taking more music coursework, right? So there are fewer requirements in music, but it's not like as a Bachelor of Arts student, you aren't eligible to take more ensembles or 4 years of lessons or area requirements that are specific to the string area of viola in your case, Reagan. So that's another thing to keep in mind. We don't really have a second-class citizenry between the Bachelor of Music and the Bachelor of Arts at Lamont, which is really helpful to aid in your flexibility. I see the Millers joined us as well. Welcome, Miller family. I mentioned earlier that this is really just informal. So if you have questions, Carolyn or even Scott, throw them in the Q&A. We'd love to answer them. And Director Ward joined us as well. This is Keith Ward, the Director of the Lamont School of Music, on hand to answer your questions along with the rest of us.
Thank you, Steve. Apologies for being a little late to the party. So.
But to our questioners and to our recently added participants, there's no structure to this. So we are here to answer. We don't have any content to deliver to you. If you aren't answering questions, we'll be talking amongst ourselves and maybe talking about things we think are cool about Lamont. But really, we're here to answer whatever kind of burning questions you have, and now that the deadline is approaching. And I'm actually going to step away just for a moment and honor that lovely working from home tradition of shushing my kids who are outside the door wrestling. So I'll just be right back.
Well, Patrick and Paige, it's good to see you. Patrick, I see you occasionally when I stop by admission, and Paige, of course, you and I were seeing each other on Saturday at the admission event in Newman Center. So good to have you here.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Well, let's wait for questions to come in, and just because I'm interested, I'm wondering, Paige and Patrick, would you care to share your spring quarter schedule? What sorts of things are you doing right now as the year comes to a close? Maybe Patrick, if you don't mind going first.
Sure, yeah. It's pretty light this quarter. I am taking a Suzuki Seminar course, which is actually pretty, I'd say, special to Lamont. Not a lot of schools offer Suzuki training, which is something I'll be doing post-graduation. And then I am taking orchestra and chamber music, as well as private lessons. And I believe that's all for this quarter. Oh, and on top of that, I work in the public relations office too, for those who don't know.
So my this quarter is pretty busy. I've got my fundamental music prerequisite classes, so aural skills, music theory, theory of the keyboard, all of that fun stuff. And then I've got two composition classes as well, so the seminar and then my lessons. And then I've got two composition projects I'm actively working on right now. So I'm composing a piece for the steel drum ensemble, which I'm also playing in, which is just so much fun. If you can take steel drum, no matter what your major is, it's a great ensemble. And then, yep, writing class, and then, yeah, work study. I work in the admissions office. So that's what that's what my quarter looks like.
That's great. Yeah, spring quarter, I mean, those of you who are participating in this may or may not know that we're on the quarter system here at DU, which has some great benefits. One of which is, this is just kind of a lived benefit that I think, especially for first year students, you come in, you do your 10-week fall quarter, and then you have 6 weeks off. So it's a great way to come in and kind of get acclimated and kind of almost dip your toe into the waters of college, right? I mean, it's intense, right? It's an intense 10 weeks, but it's you get a nice break right after. But then you come into this winter spring quarter that we're in now, that is 2 10-week quarters back to back, separated by a 1-week spring break. Oh, and it's a haul. You go for a while. It's a lot of fun. I mean, maybe Jack wants to say more about the quarter system and the benefits, but it is, and also the students, you can share your thoughts on how quickly you move from content to content. I mean, some, like Paige mentioned, those kind of foundational music courses are building on top of each other, right? So it's really a 30-week theory sequence or oral skills sequence, rather than jumping from place to place. But especially someone like Patrick, who's a grad student and doing a quarter of Suzuki and then jumping to a quarter of musicology or something like that, you really can cover a lot of ground. But it's an intense 10 weeks. I don't know if any of you want to share your experiences with that.
Yeah, the 10-week quarter, the quarter system is, I've always done semester systems, and that's what most of the other state schools in this state specifically do, but it's intense, but I really appreciate it because, I mean, I like most of my classes, but if you don't get stuck doing the same thing for so long. It's intense and it's kind of like running the gauntlet, but after that you're done and you're on to new classes or you're on to more advanced classes and you can do new ensembles, you can do new stuff. So I really appreciate that every 10 weeks it's just hit the refresh button and you get to go learn something new and do something new. So yeah, it's intense. It can be intense, especially winter quarter and spring quarter, but it's exciting. It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's actually surprising how quickly the 10 weeks go by every quarter. But attesting to, the stacking of the courses, you do also have the option to pretty much continue what you've been doing. So for instance, the Suzuki Seminar class, they have been, we've been a class since the fall quarter. And so we've just been continuing on with the content from first quarter to now the third quarter of the year.
Yeah, I was going to say, right, the key, right, to the quarter system, I think, is experimentation, right? So as opposed to, we call it quarters, but in a sense, it's really trimesters, right? There's fall, winter, spring. There is a summer quarter, but there are no kind of like required classes or anything that are going on during the summer. And so in a 4-year undergraduate program, you've got 12 quarters to choose classes in instead of 8 semesters. And so you just, you get basically 50% more of a chance to be able to try things out. And I think that really contributes to a feeling of exploration and experimentation, which is really important with music, given how many different things there are to take and how many different things that everyone just gets interested in, wants to try out and go further with. And for, I think both Patrick and Paige, right, were saying this, that you don't lose any time in terms of longer sequences of things, right? So 2 15-week semesters in a semester system and 3 10-week quarters, you roughly get the same amount of time, let's say, in a year-long, theory and oral skills classes, or in the case of Suzuki violin, right, in Suzuki seminars and things like that. So that kind of stuff, right, it's the same amount of time, and then there's also sort of time to try things out and dabble a little bit.
Thanks. So we got a few questions in the Q&A. The first one I'll start, and then maybe I'll pass it to Keith or Jack. The question is, I would love to hear about non-music DU students choosing to attend performances of Lamont students. Trying to get an idea of the arts appreciation on campus, how much non-music majors are participating in what we do here. Mentioned that the student opera is coming up, and would students and the general community attend? So the answer is a resounding yes. Right? The community, both at Lamont, current students, but also the community outside of Lamont, residents, the area, come to the majority of our concerts, right? I think we do over 300 concerts a year, many of which are free. DU students get student tickets in general, and Jack, maybe, or Keith, you can remind me of the details of the student tickets for the Newman Center shows and things like that. But absolutely, the DU community is involved in what we do here at Lamont and the performances that our students are putting on.
Oops, there we go. Speaking to some Newman Center concerts, I'm reminded of the Friends of Chamber Music. The Newman Center of the Performing Arts is a performing arts center that is part of the cultural milieu of the city of Denver. So it is a place that has its own concert series, and it also has a number of organizations that perform in the facility. So one, the Friends of Chamber Music has a year-long series in which students are allowed to sign up for free tickets, and they have to pick them up in a certain window. And if you pick them up in a certain window, then you get your tickets free to things at Friends of Chamber Music. So that would be one thing that I think that speaks to Stephen's comments. When I think about the ensemble concerts, and of course this was when we had live audiences in the Newman Center. This year we have not because of COVID. We have fingers crossed that we will be getting back to live audiences in the fall. But normally and I can tell you this because I see the numbers of attendance numbers. Normally for an orchestra concert, we get anywhere between 500 and 700 people coming. For a choral concert, it's usually between 3 and maybe 600. Certainly 3 and 500, maybe 3 and 600. Wind ensemble tends to be a little smaller, but they still get sort of between 1 and 200. So maybe, I mean, it's specific to ensembles. Maybe that will give you an idea of some of the attendance, and that attendance includes people from the community, so that is community members come, as well as DU students and other members of the DU community, such as faculty, staff, and the like.
I should have mentioned too that all of our ensembles are open by audition to current DU students, right? So we actually have non-music majors participating in ensembles and doing the performing, not just showing up to
yeah.
Yeah. Also, since the question came up about, or part of the question, right, was about the opera, is that the opera production, they do 3 performances. And so there's what, about 2,000 people or so, right, will come to see the 3 performances of the opera. And this year, also with the 3 performances, it's basically 3 distinct casts that are going on. So so lots of students get a chance to have lead roles and to be able to do this. And also, Keith, you might be able to talk about, since this year we're streaming performances, right, instead of having live audiences. But I mean, I'm just amazed at how, the same way that like just about every night in a previous year, I could hang out at school and see 1 or sometimes 2 or 3 different performances going on. But this year, there's a ton of streaming that's been going on.
Yeah. By the end of the year, that is by the end of this quarter, we will have streamed, just shy of 230 events in 30 weeks. And I have to say, we're at the forefront of that. I mean, we have, it's really been quite a year at Lamont, in that with all of the restrictions that we have had to work through, and restrictions that are there for good reason. Safety is first. Number one of everything we do, safety is first. But within that, we have remained remarkably creative and productive, as can be seen by streaming up to 230 events. It's really kind of taken my breath away of how good it has been, and even to the point where we are indeed staging an opera that opens on Friday. Now, when you see it, of course, it's there. You can see all the many compromises that we've had to make because of COVID and because of protocols. You will see everyone performing with masks, including the singers. You will be seeing an abridged version of the opera. It's Mozart's Magic Flute, because we can perform only 45 minutes before we have to have a 15-minute break. So we are using a chamber orchestration for it. So it's a much smaller ensemble. You will see the singers are separated by at least 12 feet, and instrumentalists non-wind instruments are separated by at least 6 feet. Those plain winds are 12 feet. Patrick, are you in the orchestra?
I am in the normal Lamont Symphony Orchestra. Currently, they're doing the opera, so only a select few are playing in the opera.
Okay, so you're not playing in the opera?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. And we ended up using the entire Gates recital hall, Gates concert hall, excuse me, which let me change my background so you can see what that looks like. Oops. Yeah, so that's where we're performing in Gates Concert Hall. It seats about 1,000. We're using the entire hall as a performance space. So there is indeed a chorus, but it's where the audience sits, things like this. And so we've had to do other accommodations. So this is more of a concert version of the Magic Flute, but people will be in costumes. We will be doing some lighting, but we've also had to make various compromises in the space. But we're producing an opera, and it's something that's really important experience for students, particularly, for example, graduate students or any voice major, to be able to learn an entire part, for example, to learn an entire role, is something that's important, and we're able to do it.
A few questions in the Q&A. Caroline asks about, will undergrads have to complete general ed classes, core academics, or will they jump right into a full schedule of music arts classes in their first year? So I'll jump on this first, and Jack, feel free to chime in. The music program is a bit unique in that your typical college program starts out pretty broad, right? And you get a little more focused as you go along and you specialize more. The music program is actually the reverse in some ways. You come in and you hit the ground running on music courses. So Caroline, your first quarter are going to be lessons, ensembles, theory, oral skills, possibly piano proficiency, maybe your FSEM, your freshman seminar, which is a non-music course. And then depending on your specific situation, you may have room to add another non-music course. But your first year is heavily music coursework with a few common curriculum courses thrown in. And then as you go through and progress through your program, you'll have more open space later on to fulfill some of those common curriculum courses. So they are required. You do have common curriculum courses as part of your Bachelor of Music degree, but you end up checking a lot of them off a little bit later on in your program. Jack, anything you want to add to that?
I can add a little, and of course, Paige should, she's living through it right now.
That's right.
I'm sure she'll have plenty of stuff to say. I was just going to, right. So there are, what Stephen said is exactly right, that I think of it as like, you sort of start like fortissimo, and it's just like music stuff right at the beginning. And whereas your roommate, or other people in your hall might be thinking like, whoa, why are you spending like all your time in this one building, instead of going all over the place, right? So it's a little bit of a different experience than what many college students will be going through. At the same time, you also develop a cohort right away because you're doing all of these classes with the other music majors, which is really nice. And then the main non-music stuff that you'll do in your first year is, in a broad sense, is this kind of writing sequence that exists. But I think the way that DU does it is also pretty special. So the first year seminar is not at all like a kind of freshman English class. Instead, there are about 90 different sections, right? So if you can imagine the entire incoming class split up into basically like 15-person classes. So there's like 90 of them, and they're offered in just incredible ranges of subjects. When we teach these classes, we're just told, teach what you're passionate about. Teach something you think would be fun, would be interesting, help introduce students to the academic community. So you take a class like that, that's your first year seminar, the FSEM, and then the other writing classes that you take in winter and then in spring quarter, one of them focuses on how to do research, and the other one focuses on how to think about different kinds of writing in different disciplines. So you're really getting a very great sort of liberal arts sense of different ways of thinking and writing all across the curriculum. And so it's a really nice, I think, counterpoint to the intensity of the music experience right from the beginning. And so, Paige, you're living through this right now. So I'd love to know what it is like to actually be doing these classes instead of just sort of talking about them from 10,000 feet.
Yeah, so it is a lot of music classes very upfront, which I was actually really excited about because they are the foundations of pretty much everything else you do while you're here. It's the basic music theory, learning counterpoint and modes, and then, keyboard and all of the base, all of your foundations. So you're building your foundation of your craft and your study, but you're also building the foundation of the community. So you're in these classes with all of the other first year music majors. So you get to know them really well and start forming those connections, which is really nice. And then each quarter I've been able to take one non-music class. So just building up those writing and society credits. But yeah, it's you kind of just dive in, and most of your classes are music, and you're spending a lot of your time in practice rooms and on the keyboard and singing in your room, looking a little crazy and doing all that stuff. But like I wouldn't have it another way, because when I get to those higher level classes, when I get more in depth with the theory and the history and all that, I'm going to have a really strong foundation. So it's a lot, but it's really nice.
Great, thank you both. Reagan asked a question, also wondering about study abroad and what it looks like for a music major. And I'm wondering, Jack, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the study abroad program here at DU.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. study abroad can be really challenging, right, for music majors, because there's this kind of intensity of the requirements and all that. And one of the best things I think about University of Denver is the way that they support music students in terms of doing study abroad. So, I mean, big picture is that study abroad is really one of like the crown jewels of the entire university. That the study abroad program regularly shows up amongst the top schools, like sometimes the top 10 or even top 5 schools in the country for doing study abroad. And the reason for that, it's not just the high percentage of students that go abroad, it's the support that students get. And a lot of that support, of course, is advising support in terms of helping students find a program that's right for them. But there's also just these kinds of things that go on behind the scenes, even specific to music students, which I think is worth mentioning. And so one big example of this is if you go to a study abroad program, but your instrument is not being taught at that institution, then they will work to help find and pay for a private teacher in that city, right? So like if you're a violinist and there doesn't happen to be let's say a good violin professor at that school, then maybe you'll end up studying with the concertmaster of that city's orchestra or something like that. And DU, kind of like behind the scenes, they pay that person, so they get paid, and you magically get DU credit for taking these lessons. It works really well. The same thing happens with ensembles also, so that if the ensembles sort of for you can be found in the community rather than at the institution, then through some sort of DU magic, you'll get credit, so that you can get DU credit and you're still on track to graduate on time. So it works out incredibly well.
Actually, a note about, we talked about the quarter system and how some of the benefits, one of the benefits in study abroad is that you typically will take your junior year quarter, fall quarter, to study abroad, and you might study abroad at a school that is, and you almost certainly will study abroad at a school that's a semester school. So you actually just lose 10 weeks of your DU coursework and get 15 weeks somewhere else. And you actually end up transferring back more credits when you come back to DU than you would have gained if you were just at DU doing a 10-week quarter during that time. It also frees up more time to travel on either side of your program out there, since you'll have summer on one end and winter break on the other.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? When you come back and you have a quarter and a half worth of credits that just came in after being gone you just missed one quarter. Yeah.
I haven't heard a single bad study abroad experience. Now, I don't know if I'm just asking the right people and they're okay, but it seems like every musician I've talked to that has studied abroad, it's just an incredibly formative and positive experience. And then we all asked them to join us for the next time we talk to current students about study abroad, pitch the program for them. It's really great. All right, if you have any more questions, throw them in the Q&A.
I'm waiting with bated breath.
Oh, we're anticipating a dumb question coming. I can't wait. It's a great question. Not not dumb at all. So yeah, the answer is yes. We rent out lockers to current students, and what you end up doing at the very beginning of your studies, you pay, I think it's $20, right, Jack? I think that's still the same. $20 for a locker, a lock, and you get that through your entire time at the U. And we assign lockers based on the instrument that person plays. So clarinet's going to have a smaller one than tuba, but they're all in the building at the Newman Center. And so you don't, yeah, especially for those larger instruments, you're not having to kind of schlep those across campus to your dorm room or back to your house off campus. So yeah, that's right there for you, right there in the Newman Center, super accessible. Paige, I don't know, do you have a locker as a composition student?
No, the good thing about being a comp student is that it's all on my computer, but I do play flute, so maybe next year if I get more into it. But yeah, no locker.
No locker. Patrick, you probably have one though, right?
Actually don't. I like to keep the violin on me at all times. I don't know, it's a really weird thing, but if at any moment I want to practice, I'll always have it there. So I always keep it on me.
That makes sense. So we need to invite more large instrument students here. They'll tell you about the lockers.
I will say there are a plethora of lockers, so I mean, you won't have a problem with securing your items.
Yeah, and even beyond tuba, right? I'm thinking about like the jazz drummers, right? They bring their drum kits, and we've got rooms for them to also keep their kits so that they can, they can practice in the building and not have to worry about sort of the security issues. Yeah.
That's another good example of that. Paige, do you have a suggestion to Maggie's question about what computer you recommend for composition students? There are DU recommended computers, but specifically for composition, I'm sure Paige can share more about that.
Yeah, so I think it doesn't matter too much. So for me, it's really what you're most comfortable using. I have a MacBook Pro, and I think a lot of the other composition students have MacBooks. So MacBooks are kind of the standard. But if you don't like Macs at all and you work better on something else, that's totally fine. A lot of it has to do with software. So I know software is really kind of important. I would get in touch with some of the composition professors and seek out their opinion. I know that when I first came here, there was a lot of advice to be given in terms of that. So that was really helpful. So yeah, there's no like composition department wide, like you must have this computer, you must have this program, you must I think it's nice. It's really kind of catered to what you're most comfortable using. But I would say the standard is a MacBook is pretty common.
Great. So another question about dorms, whether or not music students are all assigned to the same dorm or spread across campus. Is there a particular dorm closest to the music center, to the music building here at the Newman Center? I'll answer the first part of that, and then maybe Paige, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of your experience applying for housing and what the availability is. So Caroline, the first answer is that no, music majors are not all assigned to the same dorm. They're spread out amongst the dorms on campus. There are some dorms designated for first-year students, some for second-year students, but you are some that don't have designations. You are required to live on campus for 2 years. That's the expectation. There are exceptions to that rule, but that's the plan. Paige, what was your experience like applying for housing, what's your experience been living in the dorms?
Yeah, so I'm actually in a dorm right now. This is my DFRV dingle. So it's a double I'm using as a single because of COVID. But so yeah, applying for housing, there's not too many. I mean, the thing about DU is that it's a relatively small campus, but it is kind of a long campus. So I would say if you can avoid, as a music major, I would say if you can avoid towers or halls, those are pretty far away. Coincidentally, a lot of music majors end up there just randomly. It's kind of, they drew the short straw, but the closest one is JMAC. But I do know that the university's been looking to, I think the university has been looking to tear that one down for a while. It's an older dorm. But yeah, the closest one right now is JMAC. And then there's a couple in the middle of campus. So Nelson and Nagel, which are typically reserved for second year students. I'm in Demond, which I think is a first year student dorm pretty much. And it's really nice. It's like it's a 15-minute walk. If I'm late to a class, it's a 10-minute walk. So it's really nice location wise, but yeah, if you can, if you're in like the leadership program, I think you kind of have to be in towers for the moment, but towers and halls are pretty far away. Get a bike or a skateboard if you end up there, but they're all manageable. They're all pretty close.
course, the benefit to those ones, right, Paige, are that they're right next to the light rail, so you can jump and get downtown a lot faster if you're down in those dorms. But yeah, you're right. It's a bit of a trek from that part of campus to this one, but certainly manageable.
Stephen,
I would.
what's the light rail?
So I'll say that really quick, Patrick, and I'll throw it over to you. So current students actually get an RTD pass, which is Rapid Transit District, I think is what that stands for. But it's our public transit system here in Denver and in the Denver metro broader area. And you get a pass that's included in your tuition and fees, so you're able to take advantage of those for free at the ride place. So the light rail is the light rail train that runs from DU to all over the Denver metro area. There are a couple different lines, but that one will go downtown where you can link up with the A train, which takes you out to the airport. All of these are free to our students, which in particular, the A train is a really great resource for our out-of-state students, because I can't remember what they're charging now, but is it $10? All right, $10 one way, right? So that's a great way to not have to worry about driving to the airport. Just jump on the train, you get there, it goes straight. I think it's one change, right, from the A train to the one that comes to DU. But frankly, it's, as someone who grew up in the western part of the United States, in my opinion, it's one of the better transit systems for a western city. They really do a nice job. Patrick, were you going to say something about the dorms?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that even though, some of the dorms are super far away, there's always shuttles going around on campus that are easily accessible, and it makes the walk or the travel bearable.
Definitely. And of course, it's all relative, right? I mean, if you're looking at a large state school as a comparison point, the walk from one end of the campus at DU to the other end is small by comparison. If you're looking at a school that's a very small liberal arts school, maybe it's a longer one, but it's really not. It's not too bad. As Patrick says, those shuttles are available and really helpful, in particular for music students who may be practicing late at night and want to exercise some caution and take that shuttle back to their place. Good question from Reagan. If students are looking to get a higher quality instrument for college, are there resources at Lamont to help you rent or purchase one? I would say that in terms of connecting you with appropriate vendors, I think your best bet, Reagan, is going to be to work with your faculty members. So Professor Vendries, in your case, I'm sure would have wonderful suggestions for that in terms of where to buy and what to buy in the process for shopping for that next level instrument. In terms of resources, if you're referring to like grants or financial resources to help with that, I'm not aware of any that Lamont runs. I don't know, Keith, if you you know something that I don't know if the Joe Doxey Professional Development Fund would be able to be used for that sort of thing, but
typically the Joe Doxey Professional Development Fund is used to support auditions, for summer festivals, or even part of the tuition of summer festivals, graduate school auditions. It's also used for that. So it basically used to further a student's professional development, which is also, by the way, something that is worth noting. We give away between $20,000 and $30,000 a year, supporting students who are looking at applying for competitions, for summer festivals, for graduate school, for professional auditions and things like that. They're competitive awards, but they're there. One of the things that we do is that we, Lamont, this is tangentially related. So I am digressing slightly from the question, but I hope it gives a broader picture. We invest in a lot of specialty instruments. So, for example, if you are an oboist, we have an oboe d'amore. If you are a clarinetist, we'd have not only a B-flat clarinet, a B-flat bass clarinet, bass clarinet, but we have an E-flat and a B-flat contrabass clarinet. We have contrabassoons. So we invest in other non-traditional instruments. In fact, we're in the process of, if there are any clarinetists out there, we're in the process of buying basset horns. So that what's really nice about that is that it ends up opening up this vast amount of repertoire, beginning with the works by Mozart all the way up to contemporary composers who are writing for basset horn. So I know that's tangentially related to the question. It doesn't speak directly to personal investment within your instrument. There are some areas, for example, that we do have some performance instruments that we loan out. I can tell you we're in the process of buying a performance quality violin, because sometimes students come to DU and they may not have a performance quality instrument. And so in very selective areas, and I don't have an inventory in front of me, so sorry that I can't rattle off all of them, but there in some select areas, we do have some performance quality instruments that we loan to students.
It sounds like you got some good responses there from our clarinet participants in the hierarchy. Mozart, and they are thrilled. All right, we're about a quarter till the hour. We scheduled this to go till 6. We certainly we are here until that time. If you have more questions, of course we don't want to keep you. If your questions are drying up, you're welcome to take off as you see fit. But if you have more questions, put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A, and we'll get to them.
I might ask a question to all panelists, including me. What's special? What's special about Lamont? What's special about DU?
I'll go first. Since my time here, I found that given the smaller sort of population of the school, feels a lot more intimate, a lot more personal. My needs are met specifically, and if you ever need any sort of resources, both from DU or Lamont, they are readily available. And yeah, that's something that I found really special, especially coming from the University of Minnesota, which is a school of 55,000 or more students and faculty. You kind of get drowned out. But here I feel a lot more taken care of personally and intimately and things like that.
For me, one of the things which is kind of often overlooked, because at the end of the day, it's not the most important factor, but the building is just really beautiful. If you've been able to tour or anything, our performance, our rehearsal spaces, everything from like practice spaces, our practice rooms are on the 5th floor, and they have windows. Like that was just revolutionary after touring some other schools where the practice rooms were in the basement. And the rose window is just, that's my favorite part of the building. So the building is very beautiful. And you practically live there. So it's nice to have a beautiful space to live in. But yeah, for me, the most unique thing about Lamont in terms of, what other schools I considered was because it's so small, because each department is so small, like the composition department is pretty small compared to other places. It's a really tight-knit community, which is great as a composer, reaching out to performance majors to be like, please play my pieces. Like, it's just such a great community. It's supportive, and in an industry that is really oftentimes very competitive, it's just nothing but supportive. And I've really enjoyed that here.
Yeah, I'll jump in too. I mean, I did not do my music degrees at DU, but it was always on my radar. I went to a state school here in Colorado and then out east for master's work. But DU was always on my radar for kind of two of the reasons that Patrick and Paige just said. One, I knew of the incredible facilities that were here that I'd see driving by when I was in Denver. And then the size of the school was very attractive to me. As an administrator, I wanted to come to a place where I felt that I really would have a chance to get to know the students. They wouldn't just be faces passing in the crowd or in the hallway, but that I'd work with them during admission, of course, in my role, but then still see them and interact with them, being in the building, going to concerts, seeing Patrick and Patrick and Paige because they're both work studies in our kind of admission PR suite. and really getting to see their careers progress in a way that I might not have gotten to if I had taken a job at a larger music school. So similar to what they're saying, that community, the beautiful facility, it's a wonderful place to work. And then finally, that it's in Denver, as it's really the only school of its type in the city of Denver. And so the role that we play in the musical culture and the arts culture here in Denver is unique. And I was really looking forward and excited to being a part of it.
Let's see. I guess if I think about what I think is really special about Lamont, I think a lot about the flexibility that is there. So even though there's, let's say, a lot of structure in the music curriculum, but within these kind of broad categories, there are lots of choices, and students really, in a sense, end up designing their own program. So we spend a lot of time, I think, behind the scenes, kind of figuring out how to help students make things work, when they want to do something, instead of saying, oh no, you can't do that, or this is what you're supposed to be doing. Instead, it's, okay, so you want to do this, great, we'll figure it out, and we get as creative as we can, right, to help students do all the things that they want to do. And I think that this happens at the university as well, that even with the sort of university requirements, but there are these very broad categories. Even the way they name the categories, it can almost be hard to get a handle on. But instead of saying, well, you have to do a science class and you have to do like a English class and this thing, instead they call these things like you're taking classes on how to analyze society, and how to analyze the natural world, and how to scientifically inquire about society, how to scientifically inquire about the natural world. So it's kind of very broad framework. And then you choose, so there are dozens and dozens, and I suppose over the time, like hundreds of different classes to choose from to fulfill these requirements. So I think that creates a really unique experience where students basically design their curriculum within the broad framework that Lamont provides and the university provides.
I have to tell you of an image that came to me that spurred me to ask that question. And this is a sort of a pre-COVID moment, or moments, I should say. And Paige and Patrick, I so much dearly hope we'll be back to normal sooner rather than later in the fall, so that you'll be able to experience this as well. If you take the tour, the virtual tour, which Stephen put the link in the chat to, you'll see in front of Gates Concert Hall this plaza. It's called the Joy Burns Plaza, named after a generous benefactor. And I was remembering, and I know that Jack and Stephen, this will resonate with you well. I was thinking of post-concert. After there was a concert in Gates Concert Hall or in Hamilton Recital Hall, both of them sort of will empty out into Joy Burns Plaza. The place is alive. The place is alive with students who are coming out who are performers, with students who are in the audience, with community members, and the plaza fills. It fills with music, and there's this buzz about the space, and the smiles, the joy, everything that people are experiencing in that moment is something very special. And I feel that special quality of that moment is something that infects the rest of Lamont. And I think Patrick and Paige said it very well in talking about community. I see Ann and Scott in your comment, the community, that word is so very important. In listening to what Jack said as well, is that this is a place where we listen. I mean, it doesn't mean we can do everything, but we listen very careful to see how much we can do, because we have this investment in our students and in our community. And for me, that's something that is very special about Lamont.
That's a good question. Good question, Keith. All right, we are about 5-6 minutes away from the top of the hour. Probably time for one or two more questions, if there are any left unasked. We'll give you a minute to think of those last questions, and if there aren't any, we'll sign off and say farewell. I think that both Paige and Patrick dropped their email addresses in the chat. I can't tell if those went to everybody, Paige and Patrick, but thank you for sharing those. I'll drop my email in there as well, although I think that you've probably gotten it a 1,000 times through this process. You know, I'm probably sick of seeing it, but I'll drop it in there as well. If no other questions surface right now and they pop in later, definitely feel free to shoot me an email or draw me a line. I'd love to talk more. All right, well, no questions are coming. So I think we will go ahead and say farewell this evening. Thank you to all of our panelists who are here to answer questions. We really appreciate it. And thank you to participants for tuning in and asking such great questions. We really have enjoyed spending the hour with you. And like I say, if you have more questions that pop up, please reach out. I know that deadline, that response deadline, that May 1 response deadline is coming up ever so quickly. And so we want to be here to help you make the decision that you need to make, the best decision for yourself and for your family. So thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk soon.